This is ESP Superfloss, an interesting new material designed specifically for tying on pop-ups to chod rigs, hinge stiff rigs, multi-rigs or any other rig that requires a buoyant pop-up to be tied to a rig ring. You may wonder why we choose to tie on a pop-up for certain rigs rather than piercing it with a bait needle and just threading it onto a hair in the normal fashion. Well, for any pop-up rig to work at its most efficient, it requires the hook bait to remain buoyant for the duration of time that it's fishing in the water. So obviously a bait that's been pierced with a bait needle takes on water a lot quicker, loses its buoyancy. And with a pop-up rig, for example, a chod rig, this will cause the rig to lean over and lose its hooking efficiency. So you want the hook bait to remain as buoyant for as long as possible. So by tying it on, obviously the bait isn't absorbing as much water. Now, this Superfloss material has various interesting properties that make it very good for tying on baits. Firstly, it has a relatively wide, flat profile, almost ribbon-like in appearance, and this grips the bait very securely without cutting in. Now, it's best to air dry the pop-ups in advance of fishing so they go hard. So this further prevents the floss from cutting in. As you can hear these, they're almost like marbles. They've been dried out for 3 or 4 days and they've gone from a sort of almost rubbery texture to being very, very hard. So I'll show you how we tie them on. The instructions are on the back of the packaging, but firstly what I do, take off about 12 inches of the floss, just cut it off like so, just smooth it out, and then form a loop like so, and then form another loop, a smaller loop. So you got like the smaller loop on top of the larger loop, and then take this end, pass it through the 2 loops, from the back of the 2 loops once, and just to make it extra secure I pass it through twice, and then just tighten it down gently, and this creates a slip knot, almost like a lasso knot that you're going to tighten down around the pop-up. So just tighten it down so it's going to be slightly larger than the hook bait. Take one of the pop-ups, locate the floss nice and central around the middle of the bait, and then just tighten it down. Again, make sure it's nice and central, and then taking the 2 tag ends, tighten it down securely. Now this material is really strong. It has a breaking strain of about 10 pounds, so you can really tighten it down without any risk of it snapping. Now once that's tightened down, I'll just secure it with a couple of overhand knots. 1, 2. And that's never going to come off. That's so tight on there. It's never going to come off on the cast. There's no risk of it coming off on impact with the water or anything like that. And now a little clever edge. As you can see, that is a very stark white line around that red fish meal pop-up. Now if you just carefully run a lighter flame around the floss, it goes from being the stark white line to being virtually clear. Well, not only does this make it a lot less conspicuous, it also seems to tighten the floss even further down around the bait, almost sort of fusing it to the bait, so it makes it even more secure. And we found that you can, say, fish with this for a few hours or overnight or whatever, wind in, say you want to move swims or pack up, break your rods down, attach the rig in the butt ring, move swims or put the gear in the car or whatever, and when you come to cast out again, the pop-up will still be just as secure in the loop. Whereas with other bait floss type materials, as the pop-up dries and shrinks back to its original size, it will fall out of the loop. Whereas this stuff, it seems to contract with the bait, remaining just as tight on the bait. So it's another nice, if you've seen fish moving down the lake and you want to move swims to get on them, you can simply pack up, move round, cast straight back out without having to tie on a new hook bait. So it just saves you time. Now to attach it to the rig, it's just simply a case of threading one of the tag ends through the rig ring. I'm attaching it to a chod rig here. Just take the tag ends. And again, it's just simple overhand knots. 1, 2 on that side of the bait. And then just to make the bulk of the knot equal on both sides, rather than having it biased to one side, just turn the bait over and do 2 knots on the other side as well. So you've got a nice secure knot with the bulk of it equal on either side of the rig ring. So the bait sits nice and central on the ring. So that's 2 knots each side of the rig ring. And I just cut the tag ends off, leaving about 10mm. And then rather than using super glue or anything like that, just to secure the knot so it's 100% secure, it's never going to come undone, just take your lighter again and carefully just run it down on the floss, and then it sets into a hard blob, so that knot is 100% secure. So there you go, that's ESP Superfloss. If you're using chod rigs or anything, any rig that requires the bait to be tied on, this is the material you want in your tackle box.